Thanks, Rachel. The three-day National Executive Committee meeting of the ANC got underway in Boksburg yesterday. The party's election manifesto, the Brics summit, the state of the economy and report on the nation's energy crisis are set to be on the agenda. Political analyst Ebrahim Harvey joins us now to discuss this matter. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. Several issues will come under the spotlight at the ANC NEC this morning. Of course, the party's election manifesto workshop, the upcoming Brics summit, the state of the economy, and an update on the country's electricity crisis. What stands out for you?
Well, just about everything you mentioned. The crisis we confront in this country, and the ANC as the ruling party, now in the most serious trouble, I think, of its life, and certainly post-apartheid South Africa, faces at this particular very explosive crisis-ridden conjuncture various issues. You can look at the what's on the agenda. And in addition to that, I mean, you've mentioned the electricity crisis. So the load shedding crisis, but note that there's been a bit of improvement on the load shedding side. We don't know exactly what the reasons are, but there's been a noticeable improvement. But there's a multiplicity of crises that the ANC faces, not least of all what it's going to, the election manifesto of 2024 is going to consist of. In the light, you have to shape an election manifesto that corresponds to the crisis and speaks to the issues that are the burning issues of today. So we have to see what that election manifesto of the ANC of critical importance is, because it's going to be the toughest election it has yet competed in, which is the 2024. And then you've mentioned other things, but don't forget, there's very troubled relations now in particular areas. Ekurhuleni, you can see between the ANC and the EFF. And I had thought they're moving increasingly towards a rapprochement that may even find expression after the 2024 elections, because they've been working together in certain areas. But Ekurhuleni has hit a crisis in the relations between the EFF and the ANC. And we have to see what comes out of this. Is the most important NEC, arguably, ever. If you look at what the ANC is faced with at this particular crisis-ridden moment, infrastructure, everything is collapsing. You know, I live in Joburg. I mean, the roads have never been in this condition since Joburg was formed in October 1886. Can you believe it? Water, sewage, sanitation, everything is a mess. Go and look at the black African townships, the worst condition, much worse than it was under apartheid, and I can tell you I was there. Can you believe me saying that the conditions in the black townships are considerably worse today than they were during the darkest days of apartheid? So the magnitude of the crises that the ANC faces is unprecedented. We have to watch closely what emerges out of this NEC.
Yeah, you make mention of relations between the ANC and other political parties, particularly the EFF. Of course, a topic which will come under the spotlight when the governing party meets this weekend. We know that when it comes to the Brics forum, the EFF has been snubbed. And in turn, the EFF has said that this is perhaps a political jealousy from the ANC. What do you make of that scenario?
Well, I don't know about political jealousy, necessarily speaking. You know, I am a bit surprised that if the EFF sought to be present at that Brics summit, then it would serve the interests of the ANC, and especially the increasing rapprochement with the EFF and post-2004 elections, for it to have allowed, in fact, invited the EFF. But then if you say EFF, then it goes to all other opposition parties. Why be selective about the EFF only? You know, so it's how this thing is structured. It's very highly bureaucratic, you know, these Brics summits, you know. But I don't think the ANC has dealt with this matter properly. I think, you know, since they were keen to attend, the EFF should have been, and it would have also been another example of increasing cooperation between the ANC and the EFF, you know, going towards 2024. So I think they've shot themselves in the foot, unless this conference, NEC, emerges with a decision, which is very likely, that the EF is welcomed, or they extend a formal invitation to the EF to attend the Brics summit.
Yeah.
But remember, the Brics summit is faced with massive issues of its own, independent of what is happening in the country, you know. And about Putin and, you know, the warrant of arrest that's out for him, and whether South Africa will still host it, because increasingly there were tensions and a decision really by many that it be shifted elsewhere to avoid the predicament South Africa would be faced with if Putin is here and is not arrested, So there's a whole lot of issues around the Brics summit itself, and we have to see what is resolved by the NEC on the Brics summit.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand it's the EFF and the DA that are being snubbed from this Brics forum.
Yes.
Now, looking at what ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula has said around the Phala Phala matter, he's threatened to charge NEC member Andile Lungisa with misconduct for allegedly expressing his point of view against the Public Protector's final report on the Phala Phala farm saga. Lungisa is alleged to have tweeted that even his 8-year-old son wouldn't have approved of the Public Protector's report clearing the president. I mean, what does that say about this report, and perhaps how the sort of reaction from the ANC?
Yeah. No, I must say, I know Ramaphosa for 41 years now, and I can tell you it left a bitter taste in my mouth when I read the acting public protector's report. I mean, it's a whitewash, frankly. It's a bloody whitewash. That is what it is. Now, look at the history about this thing. Look how the ANC brutally used its majority in parliament to prevent the panel's report. The independent panel's report, it was independent. And it didn't say it found Ramaphosa guilty. It just said there's a prima facie. They prevented because they were not even confident of defending Ramaphosa adequately and his version of events in Phala Phala. It stinks to heaven, and honestly, it's terrible what has happened. So Lungisa taking that position, it's a highly principled position, I must tell you, and very risky to have stuck his neck out, But in principle, he's correct. I can promise you, if you have a referendum on this particular issue throughout South Africa, I think the majority of people, Ramaphosa has messed up Phala Phala, completely as far as I'm concerned, And so, I think this decision that he took, to stick his neck out is understandable, really. Look at what happened at the National Conference of the ANC in December. Don't forget, very important. The Integrity Commission of the ANC was tasked with presenting its report before the conference. Then they said, no, okay, we'll present it at the conference. At the conference, they said, no, we push it to the NEC. You can see they don't want to get to grips with the fact that Ramaphosa messed up badly in Phala Phala. And till today, even the NEC hasn't come out with a clear decision. Nobody wants to touch this, because I don't think Ramaphosa wants them to touch it. Just like I don't think he was in favor and supported how the ANC's parliamentary representatives dealt with the Phala Phala report and refusing to even to entertain a discussion. Now, what lack of confidence can you not have in your president and his version of Phala Phala if you can't allow Parliament to have an open and honest debate? And they had the right to tear the report to pieces if they wanted to. But they knew it's risky. They were not even confident about defending Ramaphosa's version, which he gave to the panel of what transpired on his farm. It's really just an unmitigated mess, the way the ANC, the ruling party, and Ramaphosa himself has dealt with Phala Phala, So let's see what, if it features on the agenda of the NEC and what especially transpires. I think it's a can they're kicking down the road continuously because they know he's got so much to answer for about what can happen on his farm. Yeah,
I also, would want to imagine what a post-Ramaphosa presidency would look like. As we gear and head to elections in 2024. But another matter which will likely come under the spotlight, we've heard the ANC now admitting that illegal mining matter needs urgent intervention. What do you make of how it's been handled? It's nothing new. It's just been brought under the spotlight again because of that Boksburg matter that occurred and the impact it's had on community and lives.
Atrociously poor handling by Minister Ebrahim Harvey in particular. It falls within his jurisdiction. And I can tell you it's another can that's been kicked down the road by him for how long? This thing is going on for many years. It's just that the media brought it, I think it's about a year or two. with Khagiso, the mines there and what had happened. But it's been there on the back burner, in the background, festering all the time, illegal mining. And you've got to explore why those illegal miners exist. It's desperation. You know, a lot of the miners were out of work and lost jobs in the mining industry, ends up with that. So it's the poverty-stricken conditions and utter desperation of people which pushes them into illegal mining. But Montage is supposed to have been given a comprehensive statement of how the ANC government is going to deal with this years back, at least since the Khagiso thing happened, drama, about a year to 1.5 years ago. And I can't recall him issuing any comprehensive, clear statement telling the public this has become a very burning and troublesome issue. You can see what happened over the past week, that they need to get to grips with a decision of how he's supposed to monitor. Once these mines are shut down or illegal mining arises, it's Betty Montage's office and responsibility to be on the ball. And you know what? Many other issues, honestly, has been left, hanging, and this is one of it, sadly. We don't know whether, in fact, the NEC will address it and how clear and coherent a decision they would take on it. But it's becoming a very burning issue, as you can see, on all media platforms.
Yeah. You make mention of one word, desperation. Desperation speaks also to the state of the country's economy. We know that that matter is also likely to come under the spotlight. We've just wrapped up Youth Month. We had a listen to what young people in South Africa are saying, especially when it comes to unemployment and how that is impacting their lives. What's the likelihood around that topic?
Well, it's the most explosive topic in this country at this moment. The most burning, explosive topic in this country, and especially youth unemployment. You can look at the staggering highest percentage of youth unemployment, and black youth in particular, in the entire history of South Africa. This is what you're sitting with now, which is in fact why don't be surprised if the EFF does very well next year, because that alienated, demoralized, disillusioned, desperate black youth who are unemployed, might very well decide to cast their votes in favor of the EFF in next year's election. But really, it's the biggest hot political potato that the ANC has faced, and it has been like with the rest of the economy. It's not just unemployment, but the most staggering manifestation of the economic crisis is indeed not just black unemployment, but in particular youth unemployment. And you can just see we celebrated June 16 now recently amidst the worst black youth unemployment crisis in the entire history of South Africa. Not only post-apartheid, it's never been so bad. And it's linked also. This illegal mining, don't think it's only totally foreign labor involved in illegal mining. A lot of local people have been, out of sheer desperation, also pushed into attempting illegal mining, because of utter desperation.
Yeah. Very well. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Of course, highlighting some of the topics likely to come under the spotlight and topping the agenda of the ANC NEC meeting as it gets underway today. Now, of course, that was political analyst Ebrahim Harvey.